Hey movie lovers! Welcome to our recap of the delightful romantic comedy, Falling in Love, from 2019. Ever wondered if a spontaneous escape to the countryside could completely transform a city girl's life? Dive into this charming tale where love blooms amidst the chaos of renovations and unexpected rivalries. Prepare for a heartwarming journey filled with charm, laughter, and a touch of whimsy. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more captivating movie recaps and reviews. Let's get started. Gabby, a young woman, is joyfully cycling along a serene country road, but the picturesque scene is only virtual reality. She's actually working out in her living room on a spin machine. After finishing her workout, she gets ready for work, filled with optimism and enthusiasm for the day ahead. At her usual coffee vendor, her favorite drink is already prepared, and she receives a good luck text from her boyfriend, Dean, wishing her success with her upcoming pitch. She sets up the meeting room early and waits for everyone to arrive. However, an hour and a half later, nobody shows up. While browsing her phone, she stumbles upon an advertisement for a contest to win ownership of an inn in New Zealand, but she dismisses it as a hoax. At 10:30, a group of men in suits enters the room, surprised to see her there. They inform her that her pitch has been rescheduled for the following week. Disheartened, Gabby asks her boss, Chad, if she can present her idea anyway. She has a great concept for affordable green energy that she believes their potential investors would love. Unfortunately, Chad has already promised the room to another coworker and refuses to listen. Annoyed, Gabby vents to Dean during dinner that night. She expresses her frustration at being sidelined by the boys' club at work and feeling unheard. Dean tries to comfort her, assuring her that she will get her chance soon. However, he has already ordered her food, a salad, without asking, and he refuses to let her have any bread. Disappointed and craving comfort food after a rough day, Gabby feels unheard once again. She then proposes a new system for organizing her closet so Dean could leave his clothes at her place, but Dean isn't thrilled. He worries that she is moving too fast and believes love fades once redecorating begins. He suggests a weekend getaway once he finishes his current client work, and Gabby agrees half-heartedly. At yoga, Gabby vents to her friend, Sage, about Dean. She compares him to a deer in headlights and wonders how to get him to commit. Sage suggests giving him an ultimatum, as that's how she got her boyfriend to propose. Gabby is unsure, but thinks that if it's meant to be, the universe will send her a sign. The next morning, Gabby arrives at work to find the building locked. Confused, she tries to swipe her access card, but it's denied. Chad checks his phone and discovers that the company's investors have pulled out after last week's meeting, leaving them bankrupt. Gabby is now jobless and sends out resumes, but she faces rejection after rejection, with many positions deeming her overqualified. Frustrated, Gabby decides to give Dean an ultimatum. That night, she proposes moving in together so she can establish a home office and go freelance. Dean, however, is content with the way things are. He values his own space and wouldn't be happy sharing an apartment. Gabby tells him that after 2.5 years, he should know what he wants. Dean remains adamant, and Gabby realizes he will never commit. She breaks up with him and walks away, knowing it's the right decision because Dean will never give her what she wants. Over the next few days, Gabby falls into a slump, upset about both her job and her relationship. Trying to keep it together but failing, she rewatches the contest ad and decides to enter on a whim. With a bottle of wine for company, she writes a 400-word essay detailing her childhood trauma and why she's ready to settle down and leave the corporate world behind. The next morning, Gabby wakes up with a hangover, only to discover that she has won the contest. She screams with joy, receives the documentation, and starts packing to check out her new property. Her friend, Sage, visits her apartment to hear about Gabby's plans to renovate the inn, ensure it's running smoothly, and then return to San Francisco to fund her life there. Sage, struggling with her own relationship and in couples therapy with her fiancé, confides in Gabby. Gabby offers Sage the keys to her apartment, suggesting she stay there while Gabby is away. Excited for her new adventure, Gabby sets off with her suitcases. The bus drops her off on the side of a deserted road, much like the one she cycles on in VR. With no reception on her phone, she tries to find a signal when her suitcase starts rolling down the hill, colliding with an oncoming car. She screams as her clothes scatter across the dusty road. The car's owner, a handsome man, jumps out to help her. Gabby apologizes and offers to pay for any damages to his vehicle. He asks if she's lost, mentioning that Wellington is still miles away. When she confirms that she is headed to Beechwood Downs, he appraises her city attire and comments that they are more of a work boots town. Offended, Gabby shows him her boots, but he laughs and remarks that her fancy Italian leather won't last 10 minutes. Irritated, Gabby decides to order a lift, but the man points out that a Lyft driver is just as much a stranger as he is. Resolute, Gabby declines his offer for a ride, insisting she doesn't need a man to save her. She walks down the road with her suitcase, while he shakes his head and drives off. Later, Gabby arrives in town and heads to the local coffee shop, exhausted and needing a pick-me-up. She meets the proprietors, a married couple named Peter and Menaki, who are very welcoming and curious about her. When she mentions she's the new owner of Belbird Valley Farm, they exchange uneasy glances. Menaki drops a plate and Peter, looking concerned, gives her directions and offers her coffee on the house. Confused but still optimistic, Gabby heads to the inn. She finds the mailbox sign in disrepair, but the documents inside confirm everything has been transferred into her name, with the keys waiting for her. However, the property is in total disrepair, the stairs are broken, the water is stagnant, and everything is overgrown. The door falls off when she tries to open it, revealing a dilapidated interior that resembles a haunted house. As she explores, she hears a noise from another room and finds a goat, which causes her to scream and run back to the entrance. There, she is greeted by an elegant woman with a bouquet. The woman introduces herself as Charlotte and mentions that the goat, Gilbert, thinks he owns the place. Charlotte explains that she owns the other B&B in town and that Belbird Valley Farm used to be her competition until it fell into disuse after the previous owner passed away. The old lady's great-grandson, living in Denmark, orchestrated an internet scam to offload the inn onto an unsuspecting person. With a fake smile, Charlotte hands Gabby her card and suggests calling her when she realizes she can't fix the place. Determined, Gabby watches Charlotte leave, resolute to give it her best shot. She quickly realizes the enormity of the task. The place is uninhabitable, with no heating, broken windows, a non-functional fireplace, and a collapsing bed. With no clean water and a rusty truck on site, Gabby decides to drive into town to buy a new faucet, despite nearly crashing several times as she forgets which side of the road to drive on. At the hardware store, Gabby browses for the items she needs when she encounters the handsome stranger from the roadside again. He points out the faucet in her hand, noting that it's a classic hand-brushed brass piece that shouldn't be replaced. Instead, he offers to help her restore it. Gabby, exasperated, asks why he seems to be everywhere she goes. He laughs and says it's a small town, perhaps she's the one following him. She accidentally makes a mess in the store, and though he bends down to help her clean up, she refuses his assistance, explaining that she's at the end of her rope and doesn't need anyone telling her what to do. He backs off, leaving her to manage on her own. At the counter, a man named Norman introduces himself, mentioning that he's heard she's the American fixing up Belbird Valley Farm. Gabby isn't surprised that everyone in town knows who she is already. She asks if there are any local contractors who do renovations, feeling overwhelmed by the prospect of doing it all herself. Norman eagerly recommends one and calls over the handsome stranger, Jake, asking for his number. Realizing Jake is the contractor, Gabby backtracks, claiming she doesn't need one after all, and rushes out of the store. Jake and Norman watch her leave, with Jake remarking on what a strange girl she is. Gabby then visits the local government building to obtain the blueprints for the inn. An elderly woman at the desk, Hannah, explains that Belbird Valley Farm was once the best in town, but a tragedy befell the place, which she prefers not to discuss. Intrigued and slightly unnerved, Gabby heads to the cafe to chat with Peter and Menaki about whether it's possible to restore Belbird to its former glory. With her experience in green energy, she dreams of turning it into a zero-net emissions project. She dives into action, bringing Norman to Belbird to make a list of what she'll need. He offers her a 90-day tab on everything, surprising Gabby with his generosity. Norman explains that this is just how things are done in Beechwood, and besides, he likes his new nickname, Norm. Gabby calls Dean, who refuses to accept their breakup and wants her back. She sighs, agreeing to discuss it when she returns home, though she has no intention of rekindling their relationship. Later, Gabby hears a strange noise upstairs and, thinking of the rumors about a ghost haunting the inn, firmly addresses a portrait of the old lady Mabel, inviting her to stay as long as she keeps to herself. At the garden center, Gabby is warmly greeted by Shelley, the owner. They bond over their love of plants, and Shelley recommends some favorites. Charlotte interrupts, asking about fertilizer and commenting that Gabby is not only renovating Belbird, but also refused Jake's help. Shocked by the accuracy of the local gossip, Gabby accepts Charlotte's invitation for tea at her inn to discuss the renovations. Gabby continues working on the inn, tackling the overgrown garden, setting up new lights, and finally managing to put a collar on Gilbert the goat. She returns to the hardware store to pick up a wrench, but Jake informs her it's the wrong one. She dismisses his advice, even when Norm reinforces Jake's opinion and sticks with her original choice. At the T. Rose house, Charlotte's B&B, Gabby accidentally drives over a prize-winning hybrid white rose. Though Charlotte is infuriated, she masks her anger with a polite smile. Inside, Gabby finds the interior to be extremely old-fashioned, filled with creepy dolls and teacups, and populated by elderly guests. The B&B is themed around high tea, which Gabby finds unsettling, but Charlotte insists her guests adore it. Charlotte inquires about Gabby's renovations, and Gabby shares her struggles. Charlotte then reveals that Mabel's great-grandson had promised her the inn, only to scam her and sell it to Gabby to clear his debts. Feeling robbed of her dream to own both inns in town, Charlotte makes Gabby an offer: take the cash and return to the States to resume her real life. Though Gabby promises to consider it, she's already beginning to fall in love with Belbert, despite its challenges. Back at the garden center, Gabby looks for roses to replace the ones she accidentally killed at the T. Rose house. Jake walks in just as Shelley goes to fetch a delivery, and Gabby tries to hide, but he spots her and greets her warmly. After an awkward exchange, Jake departs, wishing her luck with the renovations. Shelley returns and teases Gabby, suggesting that Jake might have a crush on her. Blushing, Gabby insists it's impossible since she always appears a mess around him. Shelley, however, insists that since Jake's girlfriend passed away 3 years ago, she hasn't seen him show interest in anyone else, and his behavior towards Gabby might indicate something special. Gabby is secretly pleased but tries to remain indifferent. Just then, the local town doctor, Corey, arrives, clearly sweet on Shelley. Gabby hints that Shelley might have her own admirer to consider. Gabby then receives a call from her old boss, Chad, who mentions a potential gig for her. He hangs up before she can decline, and she ignores another call from Dean. Instead, she heads to the coffee shop, where a football night with a special menu is being hosted. With no other seats available, she sits beside Jake. This time, focused on the possibility that he might be attracted to her, she manages not to embarrass herself. Menaki comes over to take their order, and Gabby follows Jake's lead, ordering everything on the menu. As they chat over their meal, they move past their initial animosity and find a connection. Gabby shares her life in the city and how she's being won over by the inn, while Jake talks about his experiences abroad and his love for the countryside. There's a clear chemistry between them. Jake pays for the meal and playfully suggests she can repay him next time. Gabby asks what makes him think there will be a next time, and he responds with a twinkle in his eye, saying that since she can't stop following him, he's sure there will be. Gabby then calms down with a cold. Not long after, Shelley arrives at the inn with Corey, saying that Menaki mentioned Gabby might be coming down with something, so she brought the doctor on a house call. Shelley has also brought a kettle to make Gabby hot tea. Soon after, Menaki arrives with his homebrew recipe, followed by Jake, who says he's going to check her sink. Gabby worries about payment, but they all assure her they're there to help because she's their friend, and they look after their own. They send her off to bed, and when she wakes up feeling much better, they're all gone, but Shelley has left the kettle, and Jake has fixed the sink. Gabby smiles to herself, pleased and grateful for Jake's help. A few days later, at a town fair, Gabby tells Charlotte she won't accept her offer to buy the inn. She's not ready to give up on it. Jake is participating in the fair, sitting on top of a huge bucket of water as people try to hit a target and dunk him. Gabby thanks him for his help and says she wants to ask him something, but he insists she donate first. She does and successfully hits the target, dunking him. Everyone laughs, and he's impressed by her aim. They take a walk, and she asks him if he wants to collaborate on the Belbert. She explains that she now understands the difference between someone thinking she's helpless and someone genuinely offering help. He grins, acknowledging that he's learned she doesn't like being told what to do. They seem to have figured out how to act around each other. Jake agrees to the partnership, asking what she wants to do with the inn. She mentions she has her real life to get back to when it's finished, which he scoffs at but accepts. They shake on a 50-50 agreement on the cost, work, and profit when they sell it. They struggle to find a compromise between Gabby's love of modern things and Jake's appreciation for tradition, arguing over the fireplace. Gabby wants to replace it, but Jake insists they should restore it. The townsfolk comment on their new partnership, unsure if they love or hate each other. While knocking down a wall, they find a set of letters embedded in the plaster. Jake explains it's an old superstition to leave a memento in a place that means a lot. Gabby teases him but is intrigued by the letters. Realizing the beauty in historic things, Gabby brings back the old brass faucet Jake loved and asks if they can reinstall it. He grins, pleased she's considering his ideas. At the garden center, Shelley watches the pair from the counter when Charlotte arrives and learns they've bought her fertilizer. Shelley lets slip that Gabby used to have a boyfriend in the States, and Charlotte decides to stir up trouble between Gabby and Jake to get them to sell the inn, despite Shelley's pleas not to. At the inn, Gabby and Jake share a moment grouting around the fireplace. When he puts his hand on hers to help straighten her lines, she pauses, feeling the warmth of his skin. He gazes at her, but after a minute, she looks away, flustered, and continues working. Jake, however, doesn't look away, clearly falling for her. They begin getting along better, jamming out to music in her old car and discovering more shared interests. Jake drives her to his place to fetch tools, telling her his grandfather built it and that he moved there after his last girlfriend, Megan, passed away. Gabby feels uncomfortable, but Jake assures her he's accepted it, believing the universe has a plan. Gabby agrees with a small smile. Back at the inn, Gabby is working outside when she thinks she sees a snake and screams, almost toppling onto some jagged wood. Jake saves her, pointing out the rope she mistook for a snake and laughingly informs her there aren't any snakes in New Zealand. They don't get up for a minute, Gabby's still lying on top of him, and the mood shifts to something more romantic. Just as they're about to act on it, Gilbert the goat interrupts them. Gabby catches sight of Jake changing his shirt after working and is impressed with what she sees. She brings out some beers, and they sit down together on the porch. He tells her about his love for old buildings and fixing broken things, explaining that making something complete with his hands makes him feel a little less broken inside. Encouraged by his vulnerability, Gabby shares more about how her life was a mess before she came to New Zealand. Jake is now convinced he wants her to stay and says he's going to take her out the following day to show her the Real New Zealand. Gabby goes to buy some walking shoes in anticipation, and Shelley bombards her with questions about whether it's a date. Gabby blushes and says she doesn't know, though it's clear she hopes it is. She deflects by asking her friend about how things are going with Corey, and Shelley says they're going out the following night. Unbeknownst to them, Charlotte is listening to their conversation. Gabby admits to Shelley that she kind of wants to stay, and Shelley encourages her, saying everyone would love it if she did. They go off to find some other items, leaving Gabby's phone unattended. Charlotte takes it and sends a text message to Dean, asking him to fly out to New Zealand the next day. Gabby and Jake go on their date, hiking through the mountains and out to the sea. They sit on a hillside with a picnic, and Jake has packed a bunch of stereotypical Kiwi snacks for her to try. Gabby is thrilled and shows him the letters she brought from the inn. They read them out loud to each other, discovering they are correspondence between lovers from the early 1900s when the man went off to war. The last letter is left open-ended, and they don't know if he ever came back safe. Jake reassures her that he could well have made it home. Gabby looks down at him lying on his back and says it's made her really happy working on the inn with him. He replies that it's the happiest he's been in a long time, and they share a gentle kiss. Before the mood can get too serious, Gabby jumps up and says she wants to swim. They run to the shore, laughing and playing until the sun goes down. When they return, Gabby asks him to stay, and with a meaningful gaze, he accepts. However, Gabby then takes a call from Chad, who confirms he has the funding for a new opportunity and asks her to come back and work for him starting in 2 weeks. She says she'll think about it, much to the disappointment of Jake, who overhears the whole thing. He accuses her of being soulless and going back to her old life despite her recent self-discoveries. Upset, Gabby retorts, accusing him of putting up a wall so he doesn't have to care about anyone. He leaves, and although both want to apologize, neither can find the right words. When the bellbird is finally finished, it's not the joyous celebration they imagined, but a businesslike nod. Gabby watches Jake leave sadly and speaks once again to Mabel's portrait, asking if she's made a mistake. At the open house party, everyone in town is excited for the reopening of the inn. Gabby approaches Jake, and there's a wistful atmosphere as they look at the product of their hard work. He asks what happened to the letters, and she says she put them back in the wall where they belong. She's about to apologize when Dean suddenly arrives. Gabby introduces Jake to Dean awkwardly, calling him her business partner. Jake nods, not surprised that she's unwilling to disclose the full extent of their relationship. Charlotte runs over, pleased that her plan has worked, and says she's still willing to buy the inn from them. But it looks like her gamble backfired. Dean brought a buyer with him from an Australian company willing to pay top dollar for the property. Brusquely, Jake leads them all into the inn while Charlotte laments her bad luck. Gabby demonstrates all the modern upgrades she's made with solar power, and Jake talks about all the amazing systems she's created. She describes the beautiful fittings and furnishings he's restored, centering on the now-working classic fireplace. Their eyes connect, and Gabby says she's learned a lot about the Kiwi way of life, letting Jake know her words are for him. The buyer is extremely impressed and makes a generous offer on the spot. Gabby asks for a minute to discuss it with Jake, hoping he will talk her out of selling. However, Dean interrupts, and Jake tells him it's a deal. Shelley chases Jake as he walks away, asking him what he's doing. He tells her he's letting Gabby go because that's what she wants. Shelley convinces him to go back inside and talk to her, but then a fire alert is sent out to all the volunteer firefighters. Most of the assembled group, including Jake, learn that there's a fire at Charlotte's Inn. Everyone rushes over, and Jake goes in to rescue one of the guests who's unaccounted for. Charlotte rushes inside as soon as they get there, trying to save her belongings. Gabby runs in after her, helping her grab as much as she can and forcing her to leave before she puts herself in danger. Jake emerges unharmed, carrying the unconscious man, but doesn't say a word to anyone as he walks away. In the kitchen the next day, Gabby firmly tells Dean it's over. She's changed in the last few months and doesn't want the kind of life she thought she did. Dean is upset, but accepts her words this time. At the meeting with the bank, Gabby and Jake are about to sign the deal when Charlotte bursts in. She comes clean, telling them it was her fault that Dean turned up and begs them not to sell out to the corporation. She puts in a new offer herself from the fire insurance money for the T. Rose house. Gabby refuses her offer and says she doesn't want to sell at all. She's not going to accept the bank's offer nor Charlotte's because she's been ignoring all the signs that she should stay. She wants to wake up every morning in her dream home, and she now realizes that's here at the Bellbird. Charlotte says she's part of the town now, and Gabby hugs her. Jake watches the whole exchange in silence, then gets up to leave. Gabby asks him what his terms are as her partner, but he isn't prepared to talk yet and says he'll let her know later. Jake finds Gabby at the Bellbird. She apologizes for turning down such a big deal on his behalf, but he isn't worried about it. He shows her a record of marriage he found in the archives of the two lovers from the letters. It turns out the man made it home from the war. He presents her with a letter he's written with his terms, which explain that the Bellbird is his dream home too, and he wants to live there with her and run it together. Overwhelmed, Gabby says she hopes it's a love letter and not a business agreement. He confirms it, stepping forward and taking her in his arms to sweep her up in a kiss. The screen fades out as they embrace, having finally found both their dream home and each other. Falling in Love is a feel-good romantic comedy that captivates with its charming storyline and relatable characters. The scenic backdrop of New Zealand adds a magical touch, making it a perfect escape. Christina Milian shines as Gabby, bringing both humor and heart to her role, while Adam Demos delivers a memorable performance as the ruggedly handsome Jake. The movie beautifully balances comedy, romance, and drama, leaving viewers with a warm, satisfied feeling. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Falling in Love. Drop a comment below and let us know which movie you'd like us to recap next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest recaps and reviews. Your support enables us to continue bringing you the best romantic movie content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.